Hi guys, um, I I saw a paper that talks about adolescent spirituality, self-blame, and adolescent sexual abuse. So it's talking about the sex spirituality, self-blame, trauma symptoms among adolescents waiting for treatment after disclosing sexual abuse. And it's a study in the US, but I found it very interesting, and I'll just share a few things. So, when adolescents get to be sexually abused, I'm trying to put it in our context. We get to oh my god, the adolescents have been abused, and there's usually that it goes viral, people shout, some kind of actions are being made, and that's it. In Nigeria, it's worse off because we do not have proper psychosocial support, neither do we have mental health support. Sometimes we don't even screen the children, the adolescents, for anything. We just leave them alone. So this paper was saying that when you talk about their symptoms before they go on to treatment, there's and spirituality, there's the issue of self-blame, there is the issue of divine support, divine struggles, and then when the treatment starts. So I found it very interesting. So it was talking about what experiences do the teenagers or the adolescents have before the sexual abuse, when they disclose it, and when they start treatment. If you are very much aware, mental health screening or therapies or counseling opportunities in places like US, UK, it takes a long time before you get on to see a therapist. So there's that, you've been screened, you had sexual abuse incident, and then you're put on a waiting list before you then meet your therapist. So it might take a long time before you are being placed there, and lots of adolescents who might have like a faith background or a spiritual background might turn onto the religious leader for divine support, or if they are struggling. So in this case, they interviewed or they checked adolescents, mostly Hispanic and African or Latin American and African Americans, on the issue of disclosing sexual abuse, being on the waiting list, and then having to see the therapist the first time. And what they found out was that overall, trauma symptoms declined after the screening because they've disclosed it, and as they are waiting for their treatment and their support, they have this natural reduction of their symptoms. There's a lot of high blame. They blame themselves. God maybe did something wrong to me, did me bad. Where was God? I couldn't protect myself. God allowed it to happen. God is punishing me. And the more they have self-blame, the higher their symptoms. And even when they start their treatment, they still have high levels of trauma symptoms. For those who have greater divine struggles, like doubts about their relationship with God, especially those who were in faith before they started doubting that God can do, why would God allow this kind of thing to happen? They start also having high trauma symptoms when the screening, when the treatment starts. So I've tried to bring it to the Nigerian context. When things like this happen, we have high adolescent or children sexual abuse. It's the one that comes viral, that's the one we see, but there are lots that are going on. We have people who are also exploiting adolescents using the phone, so cyber sexual abuse and all sorts of things. And there are reports just from a few studies of high mental health problems like depression, post-traumatic disorder, and suicide. There's a high privilege, and there's also a gap in when we have disclosure services that are there to screen and then also to support them. In Nigeria, of course, we have religion and culture, which is very salient in our community. So the first people we tend to go to are the religious leaders. I know there's a caveat. Religious leaders are also guilty in abuse, but we always turn to God for support. However, sometimes religious leaders get to do this kind of, based on the research, the religious leaders tend to like have this, maybe God is punishing you, maybe God, so it increases the blame. And then there's always a wrong interpretation. It is, well, maybe God allowed it to happen for a reason. The blame that the adolescent has is heightened, and then they start struggling with their divine support. So the person is supposed to give them that divine support to answer the questions. The person is actually shaming them, and also they then start to struggle a lot with their divine support, their relationship with God and themselves. And so their trauma symptoms get to be high. Mental health literacy is still quite low in terms of adolescents, so there's a lot of stigma, and sometimes because we tend not to challenge our spiritual explanations of trauma, so everything is just have prolonged, unchallenged distress, and you have longer mental health issues. And then screening for spiritual struggles and self-blame is a way to culturally and sensitively start identifying high-risk adolescents who might fall through the cracks. So what that means is, I know we don't have such triage, but because I enjoy adolescents, young people, mental health and all, I think when a case happens and you're screening, try to say, do you think it's your fault? You're triaging them to know how their symptoms are. Do you think it's your fault? Try to find out a few things, whether they are blaming themselves. Ask them about their doubts about whether God is going to be there for them, and what they think. Do they feel they were abandoned by God, or God can support them in these trying times? Because if you get to do that triage, you are able to know which way to go and how to go about it. And then it's going to mirror out the support that you are going to give. I also think that clinicians who have faith, as a Christian, I think whether you are a health worker in any sense and you are believing in God, you should incorporate and address the spiritual side of such things, such abuses, without judgment. So some people might be hurt because it's maybe there's religious worries. They feel they are punished. They feel God is angry. You also have to integrate all this cognitive based therapy. You have to try to explore what they think about their spiritual struggles, whether they are okay with their relationship with God, because studies have shown that those who have better divine support, who go to meet God for support, they have better mental health. But there is that gap in seeking support and getting treatment as well. So there's also heightened when you leave them. There's still the symptoms that play out. I also think that we need to train, we need to work closely with faith leaders. So recognize the trauma and the self-blame. Try to avoid messages that say it is your fault, why did you go there, blah 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 blah. You have to try to encourage the opportunity to seek help. And I feel like because we do not have such structures in place, I think we should start thinking of those structures whereby we have trained counselors who will be non-judgmental. And even again, it's another angle of mental health, another angle of youth work that you can go into, and then play around. We're rolling out sessions that talk about trauma, that talk about self-blame, that talk about harmful spiritual attributions, reaching out to schools. Schools can actually be of help. Yeah, there's so many things, and um, if you're at home, you can always tell the adolescent it's not your fault. God is not punishing you. God is not wicked to you. Also, have safe spaces, dialogues, and to promote, avoiding that shaming that we get to do, and also a space to address our spiritual struggles. I think that's something that we don't get to do, and we don't address our spiritual struggles. It's like as if it's forbidden to have spiritual struggles. That's what I've learned. And yeah, if you have anything to say about it, please do let me know. Let's share our thoughts.